This episode of Forging Friendships is sponsored in part by Iron Mountain Metalcraft, located in the beautiful Pigeon Forge, Tennessee area. Go forge a memory with Forged in Fire fan favorite Robbie Bowman. Woo! The show is also sponsored in part by African Custom Knives, Black Dragon Forge, Paragon Kilns, and with the support of viewers like you through our GoFundMe campaign, link in description.
I enjoy coming here just about every day, to the point where there's a lot of times where, as much as I enjoy my family, I'd rather be at the shop. I mean, it would be very easy for me just to be here all the time. I don't want to have that example for my kids, because I've been in that position. Recently, within the last half year or so, I started making brass knuckles. A couple here. I mean, that's one right there. They got made legal in Texas last year to carry, and it kind of worked out almost as a whim when I did a knife show last year to sell the grinders. I just needed something to kind of put on the table, and they sold out. You know, I just had a few that I'd always kind of had laying around, and they sold out really quickly, and it's turned into a nice little side business. I've shipped knuckles all over the world, quite literally. I've sent them to the Philippines, Malaysia, Japan, Germany, Czechoslovakia, the UK, over in the Middle East. It's kind of amazing the world that exists just for that, and the people that collect them. Yeah, so here's some of the knuckles we make. These are titanium. These are titanium, brass, copper. That's the death head. There's a little two-finger version, titanium owl, little two-finger. So,
how'd the idea? Was it just because of the law that passed? You thought you saw?
No, well, I've always made them. You know, okay. Just kind of as a, you know, I give them to people from time to time, and so I was doing the Lost Pines knife show last year with taking some of my grinders to that. I didn't have anything to put on the table other than my grinders, so I had a few of these laying around, and I threw them out there just to kind of fill out the table a little bit, and man, they sold like that, sold like hotcakes, to the point where I had, on Saturday night, I came back here to the shop to make a couple dozen more, and I was here till probably 2 a.m. getting that done. Basically, I sell them directly on Instagram, but I'm getting a new website developed, and it'll have a store on there. And we're still playing. You know, they're actually really fun to make. They're kind of just to mess around with. But you know, one of the things that I'm doing now is I'm working with knife makers from all over the country, and we're doing some really cool stuff. Kind of how you and I met at Blade Show last year. Yeah. I like knives, and so leading into that, kind of leading into some of our future, I'm working with a lot more knife makers now, to the point where I've actually helped design some knives. I know a lot of how these things need to go, so that I can get on, you know, I can go into CAD it up, and actually start designing it there. Not necessarily the aesthetics, but the mechanical portions of it. But that's not to say that, you know, even for one of your designs, that I'm not saying I take liberty with it, but I definitely clean it up and make sure to get the aesthetics where it flows correctly. It looks right. You know, and hopefully in the end it feels right. That's my goal, is I can spend probably 5 to 10 minutes here that may over time save you hours and hours and hours of work. So you're asking the question of one thing, what I like to do over and over again. It's sort of that. I enjoy being able to design, or take a design even, make it reality, but make it as good, if not better, than the initial vision.
Right. Because speaking from the maker side too, there are certain things that when we conceptualize and we design, we don't always think about. And when we put it in the hands of somebody who has that machining eye and knows how to work things through in CAD,
right,
and how it's going to be as a finished product, and then we get it back and we're like, ooh, I get that relationship.
And that's the reaction that I'm looking for. Yeah. When you get it in your hands. And I have a term that I use a lot of times that I call a snick fit. When you have pieces that go together and they go snick, they make that little sound, that feel, and it's just like, ooh. Yeah, it's a snick fit, and I'm looking for that. Even if it's a fixed blade design, that term still applies, so that when you get it in your hand, ooh, yes, that's right. But I really enjoy that part of things, and doing, you know, working with other people that way. So.
I didn't want that last little bit interrupted.
I got you.
That was good. 2 more. What is, if any, if not, great, for whether it's too complicated, it's too time consuming, it's offensive to you, what's one thing that you refused or will refuse to make? Just, I'm not going to do that. For whatever reason. I don't want to do it.
Well, so I don't do structural work. I have done structural work in the past. Now, and I'll give you the caveat of that by saying I don't typically do basic red iron work, even on high-end architectural projects. There's guys out here that we actually do work for. You know, we cut parts for them, and that is what they do. So A, they've got more knowledge and experience with that sort of stuff, and B, from a liability standpoint, I don't like that. But I have done, like for instance, the W Hotel. We did some structural pieces, they're like cabanas and things, but they were decorative at the same time.
Right.
So I've done a lot of decorative structural pieces that incorporate elements that we have to either forge or fabricate in a decorative manner. I mean, to the point where I have taken I-beam, notched it, and scrolled it. Scrolled it out, you know, so we're taking structural material and we're forging them to create a decorative element and then reincorporating it as a structural element. So I've done some things like, and that sort of thing I enjoy doing. It's not typical.
Right.
I don't do steel fencing. You know, there's guys I can't compete.
Right.
You know, for what I have to charge, I can't compete.
Right. You do more of a custom type thing versus something
very much so.
Producing.
Now I've done custom fencing.
Totally different situation.
Totally different situation.
Yeah.
But cut and paste type stuff, you know, apartment railings. I don't do apartment railings. There's companies that are set up to do that, and that's what they do, and that's what they.
And that's only what they do.
That's only what they do.
Yeah.
And I can't compete against them. So yeah, there's that. So this is a forge I'm putting together utilizing the burners that I've been designing and tweaking. Definitely utilize, you know, material you have on hand, but this is an old Craftsman compressor tank that I've had laying around for years, literally. And I was like, well, it's about the right size and shape of what I need for a forge. And then two of my large burners now to power it, and we're going to start doing production Damascus.
Tell me a little more about the burners that you're going to be using on it.
So they're based off of, and I can't remember, like I said, I can't remember Ron's last name, but they're based off of his burners for hybrid burners. I took his design and like I say, I built them for me, changed a few things up and add some little details to it that I think improve the diffusion of the gas, and I think they burn a little bit better. He's the NASA scientist, I am not. They took one of his small ones that I've had for years and just scaled it up larger to my size, and for my purpose, it puts off amazing amount of heat.
Can we light one to see what it looks like?
Yeah, let's do that. So this one I have currently set up. I'm still tweaking the orifice diameters and things like that. Essentially a 1-inch tube Venturi burner. Well, we're in Central Texas. I mean, some people would argue that the heart of Texas is Waco, but, you know, we're not too far away from them. Well, Heart of Texas, the acronym is HOT. I was like, well, okay, that works out pretty well. And so it's Hot Metal Works a lot of times. It makes it, you know, just a little easier to say and write on a check. The weirdest thing I've ever made. Well, I've made dungeon equipment for some people. Well, they wanted a forged cage, harnesses. Had to take some measurements to fit for necks and wrists and waists and things like that.
Things I don't want to know about.
Well, you know, I knew what it was, but you know, it was a paying gig, so.
Make money and be quiet.
Hey, 20 bucks is 20 bucks. Probably one of the biggest jobs overall in scope and financial. We did the W Hotel down in downtown Austin. All the metal work for the plaza area on the ground level, on the ground floor, right next to the Austin City Limits Music Theater. So we did the railings that go to the theater. They surround the Willie Nelson sculpture. There's a big wall. We did the signage for the front of the hotel going into the doors. And then up on the pool area, we did all the cabanas and railings and things like that were installed on the 4th floor pool. Yeah, it was a big job. It was huge. It was a nightmare. The W Hotel job taught me a lot of very good lessons for business. I would say probably one of the favorite things I've ever done. We did a sculpture for McLennan County Community College up in Waco, and it's a large DNA sculpture. It's steel and glass, and it's about 36 feet tall, and it suspends from a single point in the building. And I'd love to get some more like that again. So here we got the layout more or less for your tomahawks and knife blades. We'll get these pathed. In other words, we're going to create a tooling path for the water jet to follow. We'll get that done, and then we'll send it out to the water jet. It is now out at the water jet.
Just like that.
Just like that. Owned and ready, rotated, all that fun stuff. But it's ready to go. So getting the material on the water jet table here, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot the file out, and we're gonna start cutting it here in just a bit.
So that thing's gonna spit out water down there. It's gonna cut that using that.
And sending the message magically through the air, yes. That's it right there.
That's how knives are made, people. Magic.
Magic. All right, here we go. Cool.
Yeah.
That cross came out nice. This is just where we put stuff to dry, and where people can pick stuff up after hours sometimes.
The one thing grown-up Lee would tell little kid Lee right now.
Wow. I would have said buy Amazon, but you know. Or here's the winning lottery for such and such a date. I don't know, because I would think that it would change where I am and who I am. I don't know that I have a specific answer. And it's basically what I tell my kids a lot of times is I can show you, but you kind of need to figure it out.